pick and roll with it. Make a pick and roll with it. Betting weekly. Fast break. From coast to coast and way downtown. From coast to coast and way downtown. From coast to coast and way downtown.
Welcome into a live edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break. I'm Doug Kezirian alongside professional handicapper Albert Nguyen, also known as Analytics Capper. What is this football sport you speak of? It's all about the WNBA these days. In all seriousness, we can multitask here in this opening night of week one because there was really opening night of college football last week. But the show has been awesome. 3-0 last night combined, 7-0 all week. Albert, I know you've been on a roll as well with everyone else. How you doing this Thursday afternoon?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. I'm very excited to look into the slate tonight, the WNBA slate. You mentioned it. Football is at the top of everyone's mind right now, but cashing tickets, money is money, no matter what sport you're looking into, what edges and angles you have. WNBA, I think it's cool tonight just because it's Stewie's second game back for the Liberty. Fee is on that MVP mission. And so it's going to be interesting to talk about it. And then I'd love to hear your thoughts on it too.
I've laughed all the time. I talk about this playing the amateur psychologist, right? So the question is, you mentioned Fee and that hunt for the MVP. She's now minus 1250 at Bet Rivers. I'm old enough to remember a couple of weeks ago, you and I saying, that 250, that $400 is pretty cheap. And sure enough, that's the case right now as she bounced back in a large way. But every game this week has had a really different, or every day, I guess, in the W has had a really different sort of landscape. Yesterday, there were some tight spreads. The day before, we had some double-digit spreads. Tonight, we have 2 double digits and a 9. So certainly a different type of handicap. And just want to remind everyone, if you like what you hear on our shows, sign up for the newsletter, get exclusive tips, and the free Insider magazine. Sign up for free at bettingweeklystudios.com. And let's talk about that second game back for Breanna Stewart, because when she did return, there was no Natasha Cloud. And that, again, so maybe the front line for the Liberties together for the first time, but that's not the case for their entire lineup. But Cloud is expected to return, although officially listed as questionable. So they may have, for the first time all season, their playoff lineup, because they obviously added Mieselman mid-season, but they're going to start Phoebish and bring Mieselman off the bench. But again, you'll have that front line playing together. Really interesting look. Meanwhile, the Mystics made the trade Sykes at the deadline, and then sort of stumbled into the playoff race by winning a few games. Now they've since lost some, and they're at their, I don't know, long-term lineup with all the rookies and stuff. So this line's trickled up a little bit. It's now 13 at some shops. It's 12 at Bet Rivers. Over under 163. Do you have a read here?
I'm gonna fire early, man. I like that Liberty here. That you mentioned that Stewie's second game back. First game back, if I had known, I would have faded New York there, not to lose, but the spread. With that in mind, I do expect them from an ATS perspective to bounce back today. You mentioned it, the Liberty. This is kind of what they envision heading into the season, right? Peaking or getting healthy at the right time. Now that they have this monster like four-headed centers, up in the front line, being able to kind of switch, I think it's going to be huge for them. Size is very important in the playoffs when things slow down. And if you look at their head-to-head matchup between the Mystics and the Liberty dominate this, even with or without Sykes, with or without Breanna Stewart. So I think they've won 9 of the last 10, including 8 in a row. But the thing is, Washington did cover their previous timeout. Washington, I think, were 12.5-point underdogs and lost by 12. So they covered by the hook. I think that was a bad beat. I like New York today. I think they get it done. It's not a trifecta spot for me. First quarter, first half, full game. I'm just going to keep the full game here because I think the the discrepancy in talent, which Liberty is way superior. I think it's more of the long haul, and I think they're going to be able to really dominate in the second half.
Well, I think the question I should have asked off the top is like this Liberty team you mentioned, they're focused on the playoffs. They're the defending champs. There's a little bit of complacency with any sort of defending champ. And this team is 2-4 straight up in their last 6. They're trying to weave in some players here and there in their lineup, but they've only covered 1 out of their last 6. 1 in 5 ATS. And you're still comfortable laying a dozen points here.
I do. I am. I think those are you mentioned, I mean, ATS perspective, they've been horrible. Not only 1-6, they're 2-8 in the last 10. So even if you extrapolate it out to 10 games, they haven't been great. Obviously, the majority of those games are without Brianna Stewart. But with Natasha Cloud, if she's playing today, we talked about this several times in previous episodes. It allows Sabrina to play off the ball, which I think.
Sorry, she just got ruled out. I didn't mean to totally interrupt you, but since you literally mentioned her name, she is actually officially out. So I misspoke earlier.
That's good to know. I think the line may move a little bit, right, in Washington's favor. I would wait half an hour to an hour just to see how.
Well, it's come down from 13 to 12, so that was the move, and that's why I said it's on the move. So I mean, so Clouds. So it looks like Mieselman will probably start and Sabrina will run point like the last game.
I think I'm still comfortable with the 12. Obviously, I don't love it as much, but I think the size and their superiority down low is going to be able to really dominate Washington here. So I still like the Liberty -12 at this point.
No, I'm butchering it. Mieselman did not start. They started Kennedy Burke, who was actually in the 6th Player of the Year conversation earlier this season before she was hurt and missed a lot of time. So, yeah, I guess they're using Mieselman with that second lineup, which makes sense the more I think about it, because you can't just be so top-heavy with your starting lineup. You want to space out the people who can score, and Mieselman can certainly do that off the bench. This was a fun, we just want to remind everyone to get involved in the conversation. We always appreciate everyone chiming in. You can ask us anything, tell us things you like, you dislike, what questions you may have. Petey had a funny comment. He said, an undefeated week, like a no-hitter in the 7th, shouldn't mention it. Hey, we're good. We're seeing the ball well. We don't want to overthink it. We're okay with that. But I do want to indicate and point out that I think the Connecticut Sun are really good. And I said that yesterday, and they took care of business after a slow start. But the Liberty were up big on Connecticut. They were double digits after 1, and then Connecticut roared back. And I don't think that's a indictment on the Liberty. I think it's more of a feather in the cap of Connecticut. I think they're that good. They're really well coached, things like that. I think the Mystics, honestly, in the current form, they might be the worst team in the league. They really might. I'm not that impressed with the Mystics. Now I think Sonia Citron's awesome. She's going to be really good, like elite player. But she was as a rookie, she made the All-Star team. And then I think Kiki's good. She's not great. I think she's a little on the softer side in terms of her edge. Now, Shakira Austin is very good with an edge, but they start Sugg Sutton and Alicia Clark, and they're not very good. Alicia Clark's the oldest player in the league. So with Austin if Austin was out, that'd be so awesome because then Dolson would start and this team would get just completely run out of the gym. But I kind of think the Liberty can roll them here. So I'm not that overwhelmed and in sort of down the libs for letting the Sun hang around because it was like a 7-point game with a minute to go. I think that they played well in the last game. So with Cloud back, she's not back. That does concern me. I still think the first quarter is the way. I'm going to play the first quarter Liberty 3.5. I'm going to lay the 3.5 first quarter, but this is not a monster play like yesterday or anything like that. I just think it's a good play. It's a straight, regular play, a unit or whatever, because I just think they're going to come out and really play well. And I think the Mystics, they're slow starters, A. B, I just think they're kind of going through the motions a little bit because they know they're sort of not in the playoff mix. So I think they're a fade early on, and I think the Libs are going to want to bounce back.
Yeah, I can't talk you off the first quarter. I think both are correlated. I think the starters are going to be able to dominate Washington's starters, so that makes sense from a first quarter perspective. And then secondly, New York has just way more talent from a depth perspective, right? When they bring in their bench, they're going to be able to to take advantage or dominate the bench of the Washington Mystics. So I like the first quarter and the full game. So it's cool that you're on the quarter and I'm on the full game. Hopefully we go 2-0 there. I like both of them.
Yeah, I mean, look, the second unit's not exactly world beaters for Washington. I think Dolson's bad on defense, particularly, and Inkster and Olsen and Melbourne, they're okay. I think the edge is the first quarter. The Liberty do get bored, and I'm just afraid to lay the big number for the game, but they should roll them. I do think this is a game where the Liberty dominate. Let's go to the next game. We got another big spread, as I alluded to earlier in the show, and we have the next game in terms of chronological orders, the Lynx hosting the Seattle Storm. Storm were just embarrassed in their last game. They had a couple wins, they're playing well, and then all of a sudden they go to Indiana and get actually absolutely trucked from the beginning. And now the Lynx are 9-point favorites at home, 164. So Minnesota has clinched a playoff appearance, but they haven't clinched the 1 seed yet. And Fee returned in their last game. They looked the part of a dominant championship favorite. If the Storm were not coming off such a bad performance, I would love the Lynx here. I still like them, and I'm still going to lay it. I think Seattle goes through too many scoring lulls, and I just don't think they can hang with Minnesota for an entire game. So this is, again, just a regular small play, but I do like the Lynx -9.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's going to be a little correlated there. I'm not going to be on the total, not going to be on the side here. I'm going to focus on the MVP, if you will, MVP, right? Fee is going to have a great game. Everybody focuses on her scoring, which is great, but I'm actually going to focus on her rebound, which I think is pretty underrated part of her game. Before she got hurt, in that Vegas game, I think she hit this number over 7.5 rebounds, 5 games in a row. And then the first game back, 3 nights ago, she had 9 rebounds. So she is a rebounding machine. People just don't really focus on it too much just because she's such a great scorer and she's such a great free throw shooter, right? But at Bet Rivers, over 7.5 rebounds, -143. It's a little bit juicy, but I think it's juicy for a reason. The books know, and I'm gonna lay it. I like Collier to get over 7.5 rebounds. I think possessions are gonna slow down a little bit for Seattle, playing with Seattle, just because when they're at their best, and Doug, feel free to correct me or talk through this, but when Seattle's playing their best, and I'm talking about earlier in the season, it's when they were more defensive minded. They were slowing down the game and getting after you playing defense. And I think in order for them to make any semblance of a postseason run or anything like that, they have to get back to that. Even though they've traded for great talent offensively, I think they need to focus a little bit on more defense. Not saying it's going to happen tonight, but that would be my game script or my game plan heading into playing the best team in the league in Minnesota Lynx.
Okay, and Sean in the chat says, I don't know how the Storm can be trusted tonight to keep it inside the number. Lynx well rested and at full strength. Storm looks shaky and are poorly coached. I agree. And this is my question I should have asked you at the top is, we got Seattle's fighting for their playoff lives, right? And they just got drilled. The spot favors Seattle, but over the past 2.5 months, they've only beaten one team that currently has a winning record. One team. That's it. That was Atlanta. Can you trust Seattle to hang around for 4 full quarters?
No, I mean, they're 2-8 against the spread in the last 10. That most of those games have been post, Brittany Sykes. So from a talent perspective, it should be there. They should be much better. If you look at the names, they have versatility not only in their guards but in their front line as well. I think their lineups are a little weird, and then their substitution patterns and times are a little weird. So it's a team that to me doesn't have the rhythm of a team that should have heading into the playoffs. They're still trying to figure it out. That's why they're not covering the game. And so I agree with you. I think this is a Minnesota look 100%. I'm just going to be focused on one player. And I think, she came back with a vengeance. She's showing the world, because Asia had an unbelievable run and she's still going through it.
Okay.
But she coming back is showing the world that she is the MVP this season.
Yeah, and that's why Bet Rivers and everywhere else has such a big money line. It's -1250 at Bet Rivers, things along those lines. I do think there's going to be some desperation with Seattle, but this isn't the final game of the regular season. They could win out after this. They have some easy games coming up. This is going to be a tough game. I think they'll break. I don't think their will is that strong. I think they're poorly coached as well, as Sean mentioned in the chat, and as I've said in the past as well. Hey, just want to remind you that we have tons of other content here on the Bet Rivers Network and in the Betting Weekly umbrella. Betting Weekly EPL with Nigel, Dan, and Jack has been dropped. It previews match day 3 in the Premier League, including Sunday's massive clash between Liverpool and Arsenal. So go check that out. That was released this morning, and get you ready for the soccer on the pitch. So it's not just the American football, it's also other football that has a lot of action this weekend. But we're going to try to stay hot in the show. I mentioned it yesterday. Sarah's been on a roll, 6-0 in August here on Fast Break. We need to send out the bat signal and get her plays for tonight. We do have another game. This one also on American Prime, or Amazon Prime, I should say. So is the Liberty game. So back-to-back doubleheader on Amazon Prime, and both have the same spread, double digits of 12. Phoenix Mercury laying a dozen at home with the Chicago Sky in town. Chicago might be the worst team in the league, to be fair. Even with Angel coming back, they've been really struggling. The over-under 164.5. Now, in terms of head-to-head, Mercury have dominated the last 2 meetings, Albert, but they host the Liberty on Saturday. So this could be a classic look-ahead spot for Phoenix because they may not take Chicago seriously. Can the Mercury still be professionally mature and take care of business and cover this?
Professionally mature is a very interesting way to put it from a vernacular perspective. I would say it's a Phoenix read, but I am not confident enough to make an official play. I think the fact that, there's a few things, right? One, from a superstitious point of view, like I don't like to bet the last favorite of the night, especially a double-digit favorite like this. Like I can just see everybody, losing money during the day and then trying to get an easy win with this. Like I could see so many money line parlays, right, with Mercury ending it, and it somehow just kills those parlays. So I'm going to lay off there in terms of the side, but I'd lean the over here, to be honest. I think Chicago, with Angel coming back, they're not really playing defense anymore. I think they're just like experimenting with new sets offensively, and I think for those reasons they're going to give up a lot of points. So I like the over here, and I mean that's what I would look at only. I'm not going to touch the side at all.
Yeah, Alyssa Thomas sort of plays with opponents and just like smiles, and she's just so ahead of everything. I do think her rebounds under prop is probably a winner. She has trouble with the Chicago front line, and she only gets like 7, 8. I don't think she's getting a triple-double tonight, so I'd be careful. Now, she may go triple-double hunting in the fourth quarter and try to get a bunch of rebounds, and teammates may back out of the way on let's say like Chicago misses a 3 and their offense is running back to defense. The teammates may get out of the way. And Russell Westbrook treatment on free throws, you never know. But ultimately, I do think she's going to have trouble rebounding because Cardoso and Angel just crashed the board, especially Angel. We know her work ethic and her motor. Mm-hmm. So I'd be careful with some of the props there. I like, I have a strange affinity for this Chicago team. I've bet on them way too much than I care to admit. And especially in the first half, things like that. Ryan Huffman chimes in. He goes, look, I went Chicago to cover the 12. Healthy Sky have been playing well the last 2 games, and they have at full strength. They're able to bring some people off the bench like Kia Nurse, who's actually a little bit more competent. But when they start, their second unit's terrible. HVL's awful. Is not a pro basketball player. But this version of the Sky is decent. So
yeah, I would say a couple of tidbits on the Sky. I know you have an affinity from, but Arrow Atkins coming off a really great game last time out against the Aces on Monday. I think she had 30, right? So she's scoring, she's shooting well. And Angel Reese, even though she's been out for a big chunk of this season, her and Alyssa Thomas are actually tied first place in the league in terms of double doubles. They both have 20 double doubles each. Obviously, Alyssa Thomas has a ton of triple doubles as well. I think she's had 30 plus assists combined in the last 2 games. So she's sharing the ball, but a lot of it, like Doug mentioned, I don't know if he was trying to be complimentary or facetious, but there is a little Russell Westbrook hunting there, not only from a rebound perspective, but assists as well. Like you could tell that she's trying to make that last pass before the shot. So Yeah, maybe a points plus assist prop for Thomas if you want to stay away from rebounds. But I don't know. It's hard to read. It's Thursday night, and it's a team that's out of it, and they haven't. I know Ryan Huffman said they played a lot better with a full team. I mean, I kind of see it the other way. I thought they played a little better earlier in the season, but the last few games I've watched, it's like it's very fragmented to me. It's not like a team that's running a lot of sets. That's how I see it personally.
Yeah, I mean they've been covering though. Like they covered against the Aces, right? That was a tight game. They had the lead with 3 or 4 minutes to go. They'd lost by 10 to the Sun, but I think the Sun are playoff team quality at least right now. They lost to the Liberty. They won at the Liberty as a 15-point dog. They lost the Storm by 6. So they've actually got some comp. I actually kind of like this team. I leaned to the dog as well, but it's tough, man. They can certainly get run out of the gym if Phoenix is hungry, but are they going to be hungry with that big game on deck on Saturday? And remember, Phoenix is fighting. We know the Aces and Dream are right there, but the Mercury, in the standings, they could continue to climb too. They're a game and a half back of Vegas. They also could get the 3 seed. They're only a half game back of Atlanta, so they need this game too. Believe it or not, the Liberty have dropped to the 5 seed. And there's a lot of moving parts. So, but asking them to win versus asking them to cover is a very different ask when the spread is 12. Let me ask you this, Albert. You mentioned sort of chasing if some people losing a football. Money line parlay with all 3 teams today is less than $2.
Oh, that's actually kind of intriguing. And you know me, I'm not a
That's
parlay guy, but you can't see.
minus 182. Minus
Yeah,
182.
it's hard to see these 3 underdogs getting the win, right? It has to be more of the 3 teams that are favored playing really bad, right? I don't think I can't see 3 of these underdogs unless you are a believer in the sky. I can't see these 3 underdogs outplaying their opponent, I guess is what I'm saying. So, I mean, that makes sense to me. It's just, man, it's destined to get killed somewhere. I don't know where, but parlays, man.
Feeling frisky, underdogging all or parlaying all 3 underdogs. 156 to 1.
Oh, there you go.
Talk about trying to bail out on some college football. Those early kickoffs, you might be able to get in, sneak inside the tip of a game on the later side at 4:00 Pacific, 7:00 Eastern. I don't know. I do like the money line parlay. The problem is I like the dog in the last game, but I do like the Lynx. I think they should be okay. Storm will hang around for a little bit. The Liberty should not lose to the Mystics. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the minus 182 money line parlay. I have to.
That's a potential portfolio, right? Let's say you won the first 2 games. Now you have some hedging potential there in the last game
Yeah.
if you really wanted to.
Yeah, and the way the tip times are structured, that the Liberty game will be over. The Lynx game should be ending by right before tip in Phoenix. So that could be a nice staggered. I think the money line parlay, if I did, look at my card, that's going to be the only main play. But regular plays on the Liberty first quarter and then the Lynx -9 as well. But the money line parlay is my WNBA sort of play of the day, if you will.
Nice.
Minus 182. You're not going to get rich betting that every day, but I do think that is the way. And we see this in the NBA, right? The home stretch, some teams tanking, some teams pushing for the playoffs. You're getting better quality of play, right? You're getting their focus. There's no doldrums or the peaks and valleys of a long season. You're getting their max effort and their max attention at least. Now, team players don't tank. Teams might structure a lineup, but in terms of the teams that are on the losing end, Chicago does not own its pick this year. So they're not going to be tanking at all. They're at least their first round pick. Mystics definitely do. And the Storm are gunning for the playoffs. I just think they're outclassed facing Minnesota. This Lynx team is like the kryptonite for a team like Seattle because Seattle has just breakdowns on offense and Minnesota will make you pay.
Here's pretty interesting. When it comes to Bet Rivers right now, you mentioned Liberty and Mercury are both -12, right, on the spread. But the money line is very different. So Liberty is -770 on the money line, whereas Mercury is -910 on the money line. How do you read that?
That is interesting. That could be a mistake or whatever, like maybe one line adjusted more than the other. But I do think, well, I do think the Liberty are more likely to wet the bed, right? Like they've proved that they could lose. But you're right, it should be correlated. Like that's not that. I think one moved and the other didn't. I think that's what happened. Either one went up in terms of the spread or whatever, and the other one didn't. But that should not be the case. That is a strange sort of situation. It's a good catch by you. Elsewhere in the market, most money lines are similar, but I think what happened is someone just bet Chicago money line at Bet Rivers, right? And that moved. But other shops do have a little bit higher juice or money line on Phoenix than they do the Liberty, but not all of them. Some are just the same because, to your point, it should be correlated to the point spread. So that was a good observation on your part. We've talked about some markets of teams to the yes nos to make the playoffs, also some win totals. Could I interest you in a Minnesota Lynx over 35.5 win total? Now they're right now 30-7, so they have 7 games to go. Will they go 6-1 or 7-0, or the other side, the under? Can they rip off, just continue to win? Now they figure to lock up the 1 seed fairly soon. I don't know what their magic number is, but they're up like 5-6 games in the division. Now, after this game hosting Seattle, they go to Connecticut, and Connecticut's coming after them, I would imagine, right? Dallas at home, that should be a cakewalk. Then they're at Vegas and at Golden State, at Indiana, and home to Golden State. So I would take the under. What do you think about under 35.5 wins for the Lynx? Now that's minus 159.
Man, that's tough to say because the system that Minnesota runs, like it's just so foolproof this season. They can beat any team even without Fee. We've seen that. But I would say the most challenging game that people are not going to really talk about is probably that Golden State game, in my opinion. So that's going to be a part of a 3-game road trip. That's the second game, so the middle, the right in the middle, sandwiched by Vegas and Indiana. I think Golden State would be fighting for their lives there. They're also going to play Golden State later that week at home. So I think maybe Minnesota is going to focus on the home game more than the away game. I don't know. I feel like that for some reason that game right now is like perking, giving me some radar because September 6th, Saturday at Golden State feels like a potential Golden State play to me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that's a tough spot for the Lynx, but Cheryl Reeve's going to make them bring it. She doesn't want anyone taking a night off. Now, Fee might get the night off. McBuckets as well. I mean, remember, those two have missed time this year, although McBuckets was to begin the season. Courtney Williams probably needs a day off, although her motor is unlike any others. What about the Washington Mystics? Their adjusted win total, so this juice is more palpable, 17.5. Okay, so they, we thought that, like I said earlier, they stumbled into the playoffs. So they're right now at 16-22. So they have 6 more remaining games and 16 wins. So 17.5. Obviously, they would need 2 wins to go over. So they have to go with 6, go 2-4 or better. Now, they have a tough remaining schedule as well, and I'm calling it up right now. So they're at New York and then at Golden State. So they're on both ends of the coast. So they go to New York and then they go to Golden State on Saturday. I think they get trucked Saturday night. And then they go to LA the next night. Oof, that's a tough 1-2 combo for a team that's got 1 foot out the door.
That looks like 0-6 to me.
Yeah. Then they're home to Phoenix, Indiana, all fighting for playoff positioning and stuff, and then at New York to wrap up the season. The problem is the last game of the year they might win, right? Because teams might have seeding and everything decided, but the Mystics are worried about their playoff. I mean, their lottery positioning.
Yeah,
I think Citron should get the night off soon. No,
she definitely should. I mean, she's a rookie and she's just playing so many minutes every single night. I would say, I guess my question to you, for those who are not familiar with the WNBA, is there prestige? Is there some win, pat yourself on the back to making the playoffs and then getting completely crushed in that first game?
I think it's the same in other sports. I will say the lottery odds, this is sort of comical or whatever you want to say. So the lottery odds are determined by the last 2 years of your record. So it's not just last year. So it's 2 years. So you got to add those in. It's aggregate, if you will. So even though they're clear of whatever standings, I got to go and add last year's and who they're competing with, like the Wings and stuff like that, because not that the Wings care, but they, the Wings don't have their pick, but it's, sorry, Dallas does, but Chicago doesn't, but it's part of the equation at least. They haven't figured out the 2 expansion teams where they're going to pick or anything like that. So I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't know what the draft is, the expansion draft. So they need to figure out this collective bargaining situation for the potential lockout and all that. But I'm going to make that an official play. I under 17.5 wins for the Mystics, minus 132. Not the best, not my favorite thing to lay that kind of juice, but not the end of the world either. So I do think that is that's a play. I agree with you. I think it could very easily be 0-6.
Yeah, I mean, if they get lucky, they go 1-5. That's either Indiana or at New York. I don't see that happening though, because I still think even though New York's seeding might be locked up by then, I still think they're going to try to win and play well heading into the playoffs, right? Especially if they're like the 5th seed, they're not going to want to stumble into the playoffs. So I don't know. I don't see that last game being a clear advantage for Washington. Indiana might be sitting people, especially if I don't know if Caitlin Clark somehow gets back in the next week or 2, and then she'll sit out that game because they're playing Washington. Yeah, I see 0-6. That's a really tough road trip, at New York, at Golden State, at LA, not only from an opponent standpoint, but from a travel standpoint. That is rough.
I agree. Yeah, it does look tough. That's why I had to play it. As we looked at it, you said that looks like 0-6. I'm like, yeah, it really does. I think they're going to be a great bet against this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Those are hammer jobs. I think they get rolled. They have a fluky win. I want to say against the Sparks. I think the Sparks will truck them, and I think the Valkyries will definitely truck them. I like Citron a lot, and I like Kiki, but I just think they're not quite ready to shoulder the responsibility that the team is putting on them. I think they're putting a lot on their shoulders, and they're just rookies, and teams are just hungrier right now. And especially the road trip. I wonder if there's even tonight that starts. They could get blown out tonight as well. I just think New York's teams are sort of running through the tape, pushing hard towards the end of the season. I just think the Mystics have sort of a different mindset right now.
Well, I hope they do get blown out, right? Because I'm on a Liberty full game. You're on their first quarter, so hopefully we get that first one right. And I think if they get blown out tonight, you'll officially see Washington kind of go through the motions at that point, because then they'll only have 5 games left. To me, I don't think they want to make the playoffs and get trucked in that first round. In my opinion, I think getting just rest for your starters and just getting into the offseason and moving on to the next phase of this franchise, right? They're moving on and building for the next 3 to 5 years and not really focus on this year anymore.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a team that I like their coach. Sydney Johnson's done a wonderful thing. Their season win total was 15.5, so they got there. Pretty impressive. Remember, they started 3-0, I think 4-1, something ridiculous. And then, they've been a nice, solid team. I think Sykes had a great season for them. She was an all-star as well. But I think we sort of know the ceiling of the Mystics, and I think we're picking it out here. I think this is the right way to play the Mystics moving forward. So let's hope the Liberty take care of business. Let's hope that money line parlay hits, and let's hope Fee crashes the boards and gets at least 8 rebounds. Albert, good stuff as always. Appreciate it. And a lot of moving parts, like we said on the show. Don't forget, we have Betting Weekly Fast Break tomorrow, as well as Betting Weekly Hardball. A lot of good content and football starting. We have great stuff everywhere. So please check out the Bet Rivers Network and Betting Weekly Studios umbrella. But for Albert Nguyen and everyone else behind the scenes who does such an awesome job making us look good and all the graphics and research and producing and directing, I'm Doug Kezirian. Good luck with your wagers out there, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.